Welcome to Health Conscientious Entrepreneurs, where we uncover secrets to entrepreneurship, life, and healthy habits to achieve radiant health. I'm your host, Ngoc Tai, and today I have my friend Shani Bella, all the way from the UK, sharing with us her wonderful work. Welcome, Shani.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here with you this evening, Ngoc. It's a privilege to be able to share this wisdom with you tonight.
Thank you. So share with us, what do you do for work, your journey, and
Sure.
what brings you joy?
Yeah. So hi, my name is Shani. I'm based in the UK and I am a spiritual guide, intuitive healer, breathwork facilitator, and I work with females, women, ready to bring them home to the truth of who they are so they can live their life with divine purpose. And I do this through my breathwork and my coaching, my energy healing, and my moon circles that I run twice a month for the new moon and the full moon, where I hold the space for women to really rise in their feminine through being the masculine container for them. So what we've been working a lot with recently is this unification and integration of masculine and feminine energy, divine masculine and feminine energy, and calling in the unification of that for sacredness and for union, so that we are living in this more truthful way, and bringing really integrity into our space. And the presentation that I'm sharing with you this evening is for those that are working in business, for those that are calling in balance and harmony and unification of masculine and feminine energy within their business.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And
yeah.
but share a little more of your journey. How did you come into doing what you're doing? Because we all
Sure.
each have our journey of how, we're doing the work and what we're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a teacher for many, many years. Over 10 years, I've been a teacher of teenagers in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself just coming in this loop all the time of total burnout, and just overgiving, and then swinging between this feeling of overgiving and then feeling selfish if I didn't give enough. And often I was just giving from a very empty space, an empty cup. And it's kind of flowed over into my personal life as well, into my relationships, into my friendships. And I just felt a constant sense of shame and guilt around not being able to give enough, but needing to overgive all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself in these kind of cyclical patterns with men, in relationships, where I would be this, what I now understand to be the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine in equal measure. I was living through both. And so I really started my own spiritual journey. And I had a spiritual awakening where I really understood that this was what was happening in my life. And as a result, I kind of rejected my masculine energy, and very much went into my feminine space, thinking that I was heading into my divine feminine, but actually then realizing that I was very much in my wounded feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been working on my own healing journey around issues with my father and my brother, and wounded masculine in my life, and bringing that back into unification and balance. And I support my clients in doing the same. And one of the ways that I started to do this work was through breath work. And so through my own breathwork journey as well, I went on to train to be a breathwork facilitator, and I work with rebirthing breathwork, which really is all about bringing divinity, bringing you back into your own divinity, and releasing traumas from birth, from your birth script.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
so this is how I ended up doing what I'm doing. Yeah, and I love it.
And you love it. So you're coming
Yeah.
to doing the things that brings you joy and helping others come into their power of, the both balancing between the two, right? And understanding
I think
where we play in each of the roles that we're playing.
Yeah, and I think what really brings me joy is just like being the container, holding that space, that sacred space, that masculine space of divinity in pure presence and non-judgment, and holding that space for women to rise in their feminine power. And I find that as they rise, I rise too, and it's we're reflections of each other, so we're rising together in this space, and it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, awesome. So let's go into your presentation.
Oh,
So
so
excited.
yeah, I've already introduced myself.
Yes.
As I said, I'm a spiritual guide, intuitive healer, breathwork facilitator. I work with women, but more than that, I'm a vessel for truth, and I really tap into channeling from the divine. So some of the content in this presentation might trigger you, and that's okay. I'm here to challenge your perceptions. So I just really want whoever's watching just to allow yourself to drop in and sit with whatever might ignite or trigger something in you and get you thinking, get you feeling. That's what this presentation is here to do. So the question for people watching is really, what is your divine purpose, and what is your mission? Because, you know, we come to this earth for a reason. We're here at this time, in this place, in this space for a reason. And I just want you to really invite you to think about what impact it is that you want to create in this world. And I know that you have a personal impact and a personal mission that you want to create on this world. So yeah, share a little bit about that for me.
For me, well, I'm like you, I come from an accounting world, and I feel like my purpose is into health now, because I also had my own health journey and my own, trauma of life, and the family growing up and being a refugee, and my, relationships I was in, and I was, really not understanding these relationships, and when I came out of these relationships, it was as an awakening. And then coming to also my health issues was also an awakening. And like after that, I just invested in learning more about myself, like healing from the past and learning to let go, and really understanding that I'm here also to serve. I have a purpose. I'm here to serve, to bring awareness to health, to connect people across different health industry, and bringing the tools and strategies that they have to normal people, to entrepreneurs, to anyone who wants to listen, so that we all can grow together, we all can improve together, and we all can help each other.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, that's the group that I hold is called a gathering of hearts, because I truly believe that, you know, we all come from the heart, and like we you know, when we come from the heart space and not from the mind space, we can connect in that unification, and really support each other to step into our own potency, our own power. So I want to ask, when I say masculine energy, what do you think of?
Well, we think like I said, we think of power, right? We think of someone in control, and they know what they're doing, and we don't think, when the image of masculinity, we always imagine it's a guy, and we don't think it's a woman who's a strong woman, because I think for us, we're taught we're not strong, and so when you ask me, that's like, oh, the first thing that comes is a guy who's a strong, muscular, powerful guy.
And that's exactly why I'm asking energy and not just what is masculinity. So it's interesting what comes up when I ask this question. Often people say, you know, strength, power, competition, you know, and these are all masculine energies, but not necessarily divine masculine energies. We're going to dig a little bit into that. So when I say feminine energy, what do you think of?
I think the compassion, kindness, softer, understanding, like a mother,
Right. Yeah, so a more mothering energy, which is really interesting again, because the feminine energy does invite mother energy in, but there are different stages to the feminine energy. And once again, we're talking about whether it's divine or whether it's, sorry, there's a wasp in the room, whether it's divine or whether it's wounded feminine energy. So I want to ask why you think of that when I say those terms. Why do you think of that when I say masculine energy? Why do you think of that when I say feminine energy?
Well, it's because it's the way we're raised. It's the culture, the environment, what we're told, what our parents tell us, what our friends tell us, what the news media tell us. It's all of that. We're being influenced, right, by what's around us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I've got the word wounding at the top, because so many of us are living from a wounded space, and really living, from a space of trying to replay what happened in our childhood all the time. This conditioning, this as you said, how we grew up in society, this bias, this unconscious bias that we live in. And so actually, when we start to dismantle these unconscious beliefs, we have to look at bias, and this implicit bias and unconscious attitudes and stereotypes that, are manifested for us all our lives, like you said, through society, through media, through upbringing. And we often don't even know that it's there. And I think, it came up a lot during this year, during the Black Lives Matter movement, and in so many aspects where we held unconscious bias towards race, and it's the same towards these energies. It connect to race, gender, sexuality, self-worth, wealth, purpose. And when we have these implicit biases, and whether we're conscious or unconscious of them, it can really affect not only the way that we show up for ourselves in the world, but of course in our business too. So now it's really about removing or unlearning these biases, and it can be a challenge because so often we don't even know they exist. So why is this relevant, for your life, for your career, for your business, for your relationships? And I say that because it all connects in, right, with your business. When you're not tuning in and standing in your divine truth with reverence for both your divine masculine and your divine feminine, you're not really fulfilling your mission or creating the most impact that you can have for the people that you're working with and that need your truth and your magic. And so I want to challenge you as well in this situation, Ngoc. What beliefs do you currently hold around success in your life?
Oh, well, I believe, that I have to work really hard. I have to work twice as hard, and I just, have to keep push. And then I believe, that eventually I will get there and I'll be successful. I know I will, because in my heart and my mind, I know that I am, and I imagine it and I put it into place. And things happen when I create these in my mind, and tapping into my energy and my thought. So
this, I just want to challenge you. And when you said, like, I know I have to work really hard, again, like, where does that belief come from? Because that comes from a real place of wounding. Where does that come from for you?
From my family. It's like how my trauma in my childhood, my trauma of like growing up poor, my trauma of, surviving in a family of 8 kids, and working hard. And my mom is a single mom.
Yeah.
So then at a young age, I had to work. I work hard. So right. I always juggle multiple jobs, career, side business, family. So that's from just always has been. And
yeah, and I can absolutely, and we are products of our stories, of our journeys, of our upbringing, and I can imagine in the space that your mum very much had to take on masculine energy for survival, but not from a divine place, because she probably had a very wounded space of like needing to take on that masculine energy in order to provide for you all, in order to ensure that you are surviving essentially. And so again, like, for those of you watching this, just question to yourself, like, what beliefs do you currently hold around success? I know for me and my family, it's the same as you. I grew up very much with a wounded masculine energy around me that was like, you must work hard in order to survive. Money doesn't come easily to you. And I've grown up hearing all these stories around money and what success means, and productivity equals success, which I think is something that a lot of people carry with them, and therefore carry a lot of guilt and shame when they're not productive. I know that I still have to work very hard on letting go of that guilt and that shame when I'm not being productive, because it's not divine to me. If it doesn't feel right and I'm not following intuition, then I'm in my wounding anyway. We're going to dig into that. So again, we'd like looking a little bit into what masculine and feminine energy is, and I specifically use the word energy and not what is masculinity and what is femininity. So we were just talking about it. When you're young, you're told you're one or the other, and we don't really have much of a discussion around it. When a mother gets handed her baby after it's born, congratulations, it's a boy, you've got a little girl, like immediately that gender is placed on the child, the external gender. And again, we grow up with it, from a young age. People buy girls certain toys, they buy boys certain toys, they expect girls to behave a certain way, they expect boys to behave a certain way. You know, if boys who play with dolls are, you know, still seem to be sissy or too gentle, too soft, you know, won't amount to anything, you're going to be useless, you need to stand up for yourself, you know, how to deal with that in the school playground. And then, you know, girls who love sports, they're a tomboy, they're not feminine enough, they're not sexual enough, they're not sensual enough, not beautiful enough, you're too aggressive. And, you know, these implicit biases, these unconscious biases that people hold around this are passed down, and we absorb that and we carry that through into our lives. And this really forms part of the conditioning around our wounding, around what our version of success is and the way that we approach it.
And then we pass that on to our children.
Absolutely. We pass it on to our children, we pass it on to people around us. It affects in the way that we show up in our relationships, of course, in our career choices, in our lives. So many women who have father wounding, that maybe feel like they still need their father's love and approval, will be overly like high achievers, like super achievers, because they're looking for that approval all the time. They're looking for that success, you know, success equals productivity, success equals earning money, success equals having my father's love.
Or even the fathers, if both fathers and mothers love, right? That we're always trying to feel like we're not good enough. We're always trying to like please them, but at the end of the day, you feel like you're still not good enough in their eyes, and you're constantly trying to achieve that approval.
Yes,
you know, it's very traumatic.
It's very traumatic, and parental disapproval is something that I dig in very heavily with through breath work. We really try and release a lot of trauma around parental disapproval. So yeah, just with this idea of success and you know, this conditioning, just noticing any connection to your ideas around why you think masculine energy is this way and why you think feminine energy is this way. So, you know, we're living in a more modern society these days, and in most cultures we're fortunate enough to be able to choose who we want to love and what gender we label ourselves these days. And I say, you know, in most cultures, of course, I know that there are areas in the world still where people have to hide this, but really we want to be thinking about gender energy and who is speaking about this. So like you said before, you think of masculine, you think of a man, but we both have masculine and feminine energy inside us despite our gender, and both are divine, both are in union with one another, both are holy and sacred. And it's everywhere in nature. If you like sun and the moon, we've got the masculine sun and the feminine moon. We've got the light and we've got the dark. I'm sorry, there's a wasp that keeps going around the room. And my cat who's here is trying to chase it, so I'm trying to ignore her. We've got the sun and the moon, we've got the light and we've got the dark. You know, we've got the day and the night, the light and the shadow, the yin and the yang. It's everywhere in nature. And embodied leadership really, really requires both masculine and feminine to be in total union, in total connection.
Yeah. So that's in harmony, that we have to learn to be in harmony with this. Sometimes we have masculine energy and sometimes we have feminine energy, and we just switch between the roles to balance out, right?
Well, actually, we need both. Like, we need, well, we're going to dig into it, but we need the masculine energy to be the vessel, to be the container for the feminine energy to rise. And the feminine energy, it needs to rise in order to revere and contain the masculine. So we very much need the two. But we live in this very masculine oriented world, you know, where things masculine are praised as a sign of success. And we've been living in this kind of patriarchal society for centuries now, you know, so strength, organization, focus. I'm sorry, the cat. We're goal oriented, we're linear, competitive, loving a challenge and attached to success. So even, you know, the time that we live in, it's a man-made construct. You know, before we had like man-made time, we lived with nature, we lived with cycles, we lived in this feminine natural energy. And as soon as time construct was placed, you know, deadlines came in, and we had to, you know, the days of the year, you know, this sun calendar that was created in the West. I mean, I think perhaps in your culture you have the lunar calendar,
Mm-hmm.
and same in my culture. So for so many years, like the moon, the phases of the moon, the natural cycles of the moon were honored. And you know, since they put this sun calendar in this very masculine linear
Mm-hmm.
construct, man-made constructs, we've come out of sync with this, and that's why we're so unbalanced in our masculine and feminine energy, because it's not divine. It's not a divine masculine
Mm-hmm.
energy. And they both have this unhealthy, wounded aspect to them. And the wounded part very much comes from ego, comes from a place of fear, comes from darkness, and it can often lead to pain. And it really shows up in so many areas of our life, and it can show up in our business, which is where I'm coming to. So, you know, when we really shine a light on these aspects of ourselves and we dig into our wounding, what's, you know, what is most wounded within us, we can, like you said, go on these healing journeys to try and transform this and bring, you know that we are divine, and bring this healthy divine energy, and make the most sacred impact on the world.
Yeah.
And you know, with our awareness of these unhealthy patterns,
Right.
we can transform and shift them and change them. And you know, this really includes your relationships to wealth, success, your career, and your relationships.
Yeah.
So
And it
let's have
comes from, like we say, we come from an awareness, right? That we have to be aware of who we are. We have to be aware of these energy that we're giving out, and how do we be able to balance these energy to be in harmony with
yeah
ourselves,
yeah
right? If you're
but
like one
before
too much in this side or one too much in that side, you're like now not balanced.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
it's having an awareness more about the wounding that causes us to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it can create a codependency. So we can be codependent on someone else. We can be codependent on, you know, something external that fulfills us, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
addictions to things. And we can become codependent on our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I just ask, you know, the viewers that are watching, are you in a codependent relationship with any aspect of your life and your business?
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that is connected to you?
Mm-hmm. And why?
Um,
You asked that. What are you coding, and why? Is there something
yeah,
in your life that you've been wounded that you still carry on because you can't take the extra step because you're so scared and you're afraid and not to step into your power, and you play small. You play
yeah,
small so that you can feel safe, right? And but you're not stepping
absolutely.
into the power that you're supposed to step into as a person.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, I spoke about wounded and divine energy. So we've got this wounded masculine, which is, as I said before, very competitive, always wants to win, and is very attached to success.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if we dig into that wounding, it's like, where does that belief come from? Where does that story come from, that I have to be successful in everything that I do? And when I'm attached to that success, there's always going to be a level of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to head into the wounded feminine of neediness around
Mm-hmm.
getting attached to the success.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to really achieve that success, sometimes the wounded masculine can avoid deep connection, or can come across as quite cold and quite distant,
Mm-hmm.
and then takes things very personally. I'm sure you've experienced this
Oh
before in
yeah.
your life, where you've, you know, taken something very personally and like attached it onto you, like, you know, in that victim mentality mode, because they need to be right, and they fear failure.
Yeah.
This is the wounded masculine.
Yeah.
Um, and as a result can become quite defensive or quite attacking,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes run away from commitment, avoidant, runs away from diving into something deep, diving into love, diving into vulnerability, and kind of withdraws instead and creates this separation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Eh,
when feels attacked, can then become quite aggressive
oh
as a
yeah.
defense.
Oh yeah, I've had my experience, and the ego comes into play, right? And they can't help themselves. They are who they are, but they're trying to protect the if they're not confident, they mirror, you know, gaslight you or mirroring and stuff to make you
Mm.
feel you're small, so that they feel
Yeah.
good and feed into the ego that they have, right? And so they
Yeah,
just
when
attack you
we
and call you names and stuff like that.
yeah, well, it's coming from their wounding. And when I say wounded masculine, we're not just talking about men here, right? We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about
Woman.
women too.
Mm-hmm. Both.
So it's the energy that I'm talking about, not the gender.
Exactly.
Um, and yeah, it comes from their wounding.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from their wounding.
Mm-hmm.
So a wounded masculine comes across as very critical and judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but personally for me, that's something that I very much experienced growing up. A lot of criticism and judgment, and therefore I'm very critical and judgmental on myself, a perfectionist. And then it replayed out in relationships that I had as well, where either I was the one being very heavily criticized and judged to the point of abuse.
Yeah.
And then in subsequent relationships, I became the one that was never abusive, but more critical of my partner. But really, I was playing out the wounding inside of me because I was critical of myself, disappointed with my own choices, my own decisions. I was really judging myself there. They were a mirror to me.
Yeah.
So in that space, like when you're critical and judgmental, you're not really deeply listening to others. You're not really able to be present. And if you are a business owner and you're a coach, or you're working in well-being, and you have to really be listening to the people that you're working with. These people want to be held. They come to you because they need a safe space to be held. And if you are unable to be present and non-judgmental and non-critical, and you're not able to be fully present in that space and listen deeply, then you're not making your impact. You're not creating that truth for them. And as a result, a lot of wounded masculine can really get addicted to work, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to gambling, all sorts of things, as an external way to avoid, not go in deep, to not connect, to not be present.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm sure so many people can relate to this. This is why it's so important that we understand it.
Yeah.
We're just scratching the surface here, really. I mean, it takes a lot of work and depth to dig into this. This is just surface on the surface. So then we have the divine masculine, which is deeply present and listens without judgment, listens with integrity, and creates this safe, like I said, a container, right? A safe container for people to land in and really feel seen, heard, and witnessed. Doesn't take things personally, is able to see things from the bigger picture, and is more of a guiding force and embodies leadership from a sense of service, from a place of service, not from a place of ego. Is very supportive and encouraging, but also disciplined, knows when to be focused, and has clear boundaries. And is honest and accountable. So be responsible for taking responsibility for what they owe and what they own, and their mistakes and their shadows and their projections, and will own that with integrity. And is really of service and does what's in the highest good for everyone involved, from a very grounded space.
Awesome.
And then we have the wounded feminine, and the divine feminine. So we've got this, the wounded feminine, as I said, like I definitely pendulumed between the two. The wounded feminine, it comes from a place of need, is very needy, and always looking for this like external validation, and can be critical of herself mostly. And I say herself again, we're talking about energy. And this comes across as being needy in relationships. So if you are, in well-being, or you're a coach, or you're looking for clients, people sniff that neediness from a mile off. It comes across as so inauthentic, and they want to work with you. They buy you essentially. So when you come across as being needy, no one wants that. No one wants that energy. It doesn't feel good to be in that place. The wounded feminine often can't control her emotions, so then tends to be manipulative in order to get what she wants, and can kind of, because she's so afraid of loss and attachment to things, because of that like needy attachment to things, and also the control, like tight gripping control, kind of gets, it's a very unhealthy attachment. It's not, and I found myself in that place many times in my life, mostly in relationships, again from that needing approval, needing to feel loved, needing to feel held, which I don't feel that I had from my divine masculine, and I think many people feel like that. And so when you come across in that way, in that place of kind of desperation and neediness, you're just going to repel people.
Yeah.
It's not a good energy space to be in. I think we all have experienced that.
Or you're attracting certain energy, a certain people
Yes.
that like know
Mhm.
that you need them, and they in turn manipulate you, right? And then you'll become codependent because
Exactly.
they know that you're needy, and then they'll give you a certain thing you need, and then you're attached to them because
Exactly.
you can't no matter how they abuse you or whatever, you can't let go of it because you just need what they're giving you.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what we spoke about, codependency earlier. Absolutely. So a wounded feminine often overshares emotions and needs just because she's so desperate for love that she's always chasing it. And so therefore feels very much like a victim.
Yeah.
And even in order to achieve this love, which she feels that she hasn't had, she sacrifices herself. She puts other people's needs before her own, can overgive, overdo, overplease, often a perfectionist, often a people pleaser, um, and prioritizes others essentially at her expense. And of course, that leads to burnout and resentment and unhealthy boundaries. And this is not a place that we want to be, living from at all. So the divine feminine is the opposite. She's grounded, she's receptive. The receiving feminine energy is receiving energy, and has strong boundaries where she knows her needs and can communicate them, and is really able to stand within her boundaries and her needs, and know that these boundaries are not to be crossed, and if they are, that she's able to speak her truth about it with no shame and no guilt. Loving, empathetic, compassionate, but from a point where it's like, I have compassion for you, but I'm not here to save you because I have my boundaries.
Yeah.
Right?
You can only save yourself. It's like you can help people who want to help themselves, and you can save only yourself. No one can save you.
Yeah.
Right? We have to first, take care of ourselves, our health, and our self-care, and and heal from within before we can even heal from without outside. You have to heal from.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was the wasp. It keeps running. The wasp is just like landing on me. I'm sorry.
The wasp boy really wants to be part of the show.
Well, did you know that a wasp is actually a shamanic totem animal for the divine feminine energy?
Awesome.
So it's quite incredible that one has just flown into my room and is flying around the space right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you know what? This is how this whole show is about.
Yeah, if
anything can happen, and then we're fine with it.
Everything was going well, and then my cat just subtly walked in and started chasing the wasp. she's jumping around the room trying to catch the wasp, but the wasp.
We can only laugh and just go on.
But yeah, the wasp is a shamanic totem animal for feminine energy.
Awesome.
So here to give a message.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in all the work you do, like how do we give people? We understand all these, like this. We can go and more into your coaching and things like that. But how do people? What tips and can you help people? Understand these, like we have to be aware, but there has to be like a consciousness, right? An awareness of like, okay, there's these things that we're doing to ourselves, these energy that we're giving, but we have to really want to own it, right? So what do you suggest for people to do?
Yeah, I mean, those questions that I've asked you throughout the presentation are really important, to start digging in, just to some of the beliefs that you hold around your ideas around success and what masculinity and femininity means to you, and checking in with where your biases might have come from, where your stories come from. And I think to really dig into this, it takes some deep work. Like I said, we're just scratching the surface here. Like these, for me on this journey, I've been on this journey for almost 2 years now on integrating this and supporting my clients to do the same. I think it's taking an understanding of where you are in your life. Like, do you always feel depleted? Like, do you recognize yourself in any of these woundings? And then from there, it's like, seek support. Ask someone to work with you on healing the inner child woundings and the shadows that are inside of you. And like, these shadows just keep on rising, they're going to keep on rising. And especially at this time that we're living in, where everything is amplified. You know, the earth is ascending. We are ascending into a new realm of consciousness. We're shifting in paradigm, and there are people waking up and there are people who are not. And those who are waking up are starting to understand that there is more within them that needs to come alive, and needs to be seen and needs to be heard and needs to be witnessed. Wow, the wasp has just landed directly on my laptop. Sorry, everyone. And within those boundaries, she really listens to her intuition. And I know, I don't know about you, but I know many of the women that I work with really struggle to connect in with their intuition. They don't trust it. They don't believe in it. And again, it's coming from this wounding, this wounded space.
Yeah, and I do believe in my intuition, and for the longest time I didn't. But I had to go through my trauma to really tap into listening the vibration and what is that little voice that tells us. And it's so powerful if we can tap into that and say, understand that there's something in us that's telling us to protect ourselves and our boundaries. And so we need to like tap into that. And you're right, a lot of us don't. We just ignore that little voice that tells us there's something wrong.
Yeah, because we're too busy listening to all the outside noise, and that is part of the wounded masculine. So when we really tune into our heart and we're coming in from this divine feminine space, then we feel really confident to, exude our beautiful sensual energy and attract naturally and flow and surrender and trust. So how does this really, I'm just going to skip over into these 4 types of divine energy. We've got the greater yang, which is the most masculine, and then the lesser yang, and the greater yin, which is the most feminine, and the lesser yin. And I will be running a workshop on this at the end of the month, where we'll dig into more detail about these archetypes and what they mean, and how it plays out in your life specifically. So I won't go into too much detail now, but if you're wanting to come to the workshop, I'll put the link at the end.
Okay.
So how does it really affect you? Well, like me, I was very much in my wounded masculine. I was needing to grip tightly to everything, be in control, and often I would get depletion, burnt out, like I explained at the beginning. I'd feel frustrated all the time. I'd feel angry all the time. I'd feel resentful all the time. I totally ignored my intuition. And I just never felt good in what I was doing most of the time, because I wasn't standing in my truth. I was comparing to others, competing with others. I didn't trust myself, and I felt exhausted, and I exhausted people around me too. Because I had nothing left to give. And in the end, I really sacrificed my needs all the time by giving. And this can really affect your business too, because when you don't stand in your own truth and you're always comparing yourself to all these other wellness people out there that you feel are doing so much better than you, and I know so many people feel this way, and you don't listen in and you don't listen to your intuition and you don't trust, you strive and hustle, but your hustle is not sacred. Your hustle is not holy, and it doesn't bring you to make that impact that we were talking about at the beginning, or to really fulfill your mission. And it's the same with the wounded feminine, when we're, living in this place of neediness, and we're coming from self-doubt. So we have a lack of boundaries around that, because we're just, grabbing at anything that we can to make it work. It's not going to work because it's not our truth. We often find a lack of structure can lead to, unsuccessful launches or unsuccessful courses, or not being able to put the bigger picture out there, and just lacking the systems in place can really lead to overwhelm. As well as I spoke before, coming across as needy or desperate. And I've experienced this quite a lot in my industry from other coaches, like trying to take things from me or approach me without really getting to know me first. And I just sniff it in 2 seconds, and I'm like, I don't want anything to do with you. It doesn't come across as authentic. So again, it can really affect your business when you don't stand in your own truth and you lack the foresight for the bigger picture. You don't take, divine, grounded, present, non-judgmental decisions. You beat yourself up all the time. You feel guilty about things. You don't create a sustainable schedule, and you can get really disheartened and unmotivated. And like I said before, you come across as authentic, and people won't buy you. They won't buy your services because they don't buy you.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, if you want to dig in further to a lot, this, we just scratched the surface today. There's so much more to say, and it's not just talking, it's a lot of it is through embodiment. It's really embodying and bringing that into your cellular system, because so much of our trauma is stored in our cells.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we can only access it on a much deeper level when we do the work.
Right.
So I'm going to be running 2 workshops, one that's focused on business and one that's focused on relationships and life, on how to unify masculine and feminine energy for more integrity and truth. And these are the dates here, the 30th of September and the 14th of October. They'll be held on Zoom, and I'm happy to pop the link for you, for anyone that's interested to attend. My workshops are very movement and embodiment based. So we'll be doing meditation, medicine, journaling, and intuitive writing. We'll be doing some movement flow. We'll have a sharing circle, and we'll have opportunities for personalized coaching from me.
Mm-hmm.
The question and answer session, you'll receive a workbook and a replay of the workshop. And if it's something that you really, feel that you want to dig in more and it's affecting any area of your life, then I'm also offering a deep dive coaching call into this specific area. For people that really want to dig in, and this has been my path and my journey for so long now. And I'm just so excited to support others and be that container for them, be that divine masculine container to help them rise from a safe and non-judgmental space. That's so awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I always ask my people on the show that one special question, and that question is, if you have one superpower to change the world, what would that be and why?
Wow, the superpower that I want to transmit and the message that I channel through all the time is speak your truth. And it is just so necessary for everyone to stand in their own integrity and speak their truth with no guilt, no shame, no judgment, no criticism, and be seen, heard, and witnessed. So my superpower is to continue running circles for people to be seen, heard, and witnessed, and just feel fully held, so that they can really, shine their light bright into the world.
It is, and we have that power in us. We just haven't tapped into it, right? And when we tap into it, we step out of it, and we're just so powerful that we radiate this energy, because we just know, we're confident. We know we've healed. We have to heal the past, right? We have to let go of the things that don't serve us. And we have to be able to say, okay, in order to help other people, we have to heal ourselves first. Then we can heal others. Then we can share. Then we can be of service. Then we can support others and create change.
Absolutely. Right? I wouldn't be sitting here telling you all this stuff if I hadn't have experienced this journey myself. It's, I'm coming to you from a place of knowing, a place of truth, a place of integrity, a place of authenticity. And I know how deep and dark this journey can be. I know how difficult it is to dig into your shadows and to dig into your inner child woundings and to go into those traumas. I know it. I've experienced it. I still experience it, and as I help you rise, I rise too. Mm-hmm. This is a reflection. Mm-hmm. So if anyone wants to be in contact, here are my handles. I've got my website, a Facebook group, A Gathering of Hearts, and my Instagram at Shani Bella Coaching. I have a YouTube channel too. I can send you all the links. And like I said, I also run these bi-monthly moon circles for the new moon and full moon. And mm-hmm. I love holding the space for women, as I said, to be seen, heard, and witnessed. It's magical. So
beautiful.
Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely share your link and also your offer to anyone who's interested in learning more, to talk to you and just getting us into, helping each other. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is that we provide information, we help each other grow, and we grow together. And, that's the most important thing. And we really understand that. And, we're just here in this physical body, experience this life, but we're here together, just creating this together. Right?
Yeah.
And letting go of things and healing from the past, and letting go of things that don't serve us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and with that, when we stand in that divinity and that power, and we're no longer projecting our wounds onto others, we can really just rise in consciousness, and it's just a beautiful way to live our lives. So
Beautiful. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
thank
I honor you. Thank you so much for all the
thank
work that you
you.
do in
Thank you
creating
so
this
much for your
impactful change to our world, and just changing lives. And today that's what we're doing, is changing lives through the information we're providing. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you doing your presentation.
Thank you so much once again for having me on. It's an honor to be here and share wisdom with your viewers, and be a part of this incredible summit. So thank you for organizing it and putting it all together.
Awesome. Thanks.